education has always been important to me, but that's because of my family. My family comes from generations of people that have always valued education. And I dug out some old pictures that you can see on screen here. And the black and white photo is my grandma and grandpa Benedict. That's my mother's side of the family. And this is their wedding day, and they are surrounded by their parents. This wedding, I think, took place in Arizona. And my grandmother was from Chicago. My grandpa was a cattleman in Arizona. And many of my generations of families were farmers and cattlemen. And this is what you did in America in the 1700s and 1800s, is you went west and you had to make your living as an entrepreneur. But one of the things that made my family very different is very early on, they valued higher education. And so even though my grandpa Benedict was a cattleman, he got an undergraduate degree in agriculture and in animal husbandry, so he could really understand the science behind that. And even though my grandpa Rose was a potato and barley farmer in Colorado, and I used to visit him, and he used to take me out as a kid, and we used to dig up potatoes, and man, it was hard work. He showed me hard work. Even though he did that, he also had a degree in agriculture, and both of my grandparents used those degrees to actually make their business better. My grandpa Benedict was one of the leading cattlemen using science when it came to his feedlots, exactly what to feed the cows when in their cycle to get the best yield. And my grandpa Rose was always using science and technology to run his farm better. He used CB radios, was one of the first technologies he embraced, all sorts of ways to test and track the weather and the rainfall. And so they really embraced this early on. And my mom told me a story recently when I was in San Diego I was filming our movie Reconnect. And she said female education was always stressed in our family. And I was like, wow, that makes sense, because my grandmother was educated, my mother was educated, my sister was educated. And she said, because I think it was my great grandfather's brother was thrown from a horse and he died. He hit his head and he died. And he left a widow behind with no means to provide for her family. And so what she did is she went to school and got a degree in teaching. And from then on, the Benedict and Rose families always made sure that not only male, but female education was stressed. So this is something super important to me, and you'll see some other pictures here alongside the black and white photo of my grandma and grandpa Benedict. You see my dad there looking pretty dapper in his 1960s suit, and he is graduating from Caltech. And what you saw in my families is that they started off in agricultural state schools, University of Arizona, and then we moved on as we got more and more generations of schooling. We started going to better schools. So my dad graduated from Caltech, the California Institute of Technology. My dad's a super smart guy, learned electrical engineering and computer science. And then they pushed it on to me. So you see a picture of me. That's me doing a science fair project when I was a kid. I was like 12 years old. And you can see me working on this crazy apparatus with this face mask. And I was building basically a vacuum tube piece there, and you saw me graduating from MIT with a degree I was really proud of. And it continues. You really see that education is important in my family, and my son Caden right now is 4 years old, and he is in school himself. And so it's important that we push education. It's something that's very important in my family and in generations, and I want to talk about it, and it's going to be always something that's part of my policies and for my life. And just as a story, my teenage daughter is in school right now, and she was getting a little stressed out recently about how much college would cost. And she said, I'm worried that you're paying too much for my current school and my future school. And I said, the Rose family always invests in education. Always, because that's the best return on investment I think you can give any child out there. So this is super important for me. And for the past 9 years, we have been educating the world when it comes to London Real, and we also have London Real Academy, where we've graduated 5,000 students in over 107 countries. So this is something that's in my DNA, it's in my blood, it's in my veins. It comes from hundreds of years of generations of my family before me,